First of all, I ask all you to take a moment to just stop and breathe. The reason why I said that is because it's been a common notion I've heard: I can't breathe. I can't breathe. So before I can go into some kind of creativity or some kind of spoken word, I must say Breonna Taylor, I must say her name. I must speak on the boyfriend that gets up and shoots a shot in the protection of his household and calls his mama and then calls the police saying someone is come outside of my home. So these are the things that are running through my mind. George Floyd. Asked the officer to take him outside of the car because he feels claustrophobic. Give me 5 minutes, officer. Officer, give me 5 minutes. And that 5 minutes turned to moments in which his life was taken, and he called out to his mother because he could not breathe. We're in the middle of COVID, social injustice. But we have seemed to forget that 5 Black men was just lynched 90 days ago. So before I tell you when I am president or when I take the precedent, first of all, I want to remind you, 5 Black men were hanging from trees. A few were in California where they said they hung themselves with no ladders, no chairs. Then after the second one and the third one, so we take a deep breath. We breathe. Many of you know my story. So when I'm president or when I take the precedent, we're going to honor all life. All life must be honored. This is very simple approach. Very simple approach. We all come from a seed, and within that seed, when it was broken up, there is life, and there's a tree that has more what? Fruit and more juice and more seeds. We all come from seeds. But yet and still, I can't breathe. So when I become president or the precedent, 77-year-old white males will not be the authority, since the museum is calling on other museums to share authority. So I'm asking myself in this voting season, when has 77-year-old white men became the authority? And there's no other voices to be heard? When Mr. Trump proudly said, I've spent $1 billion on the presidency, but yet and still, meager funds are being given to the arts. Meager funds are being given for housing. Meager funds have been given to the least of us. But yet and still, billions are being spent for either two. And at the end of the day, I can't breathe. So when I become president or when I become the precedent, and I think that's what we need to think about here. What is the precedent? And what is this president is going to bring any different than the 44 or some presidents that came before him? So maybe we need to question the system itself. Has it ever worked for indigenous people? Ask the Mexicans or Hispanic brothers and sisters who own California. Ask them. Ask our Chinese brothers who they tried to work. Ask our European brothers who was getting eaten by mosquitoes and died of malaria because they couldn't meet them South Carolina fields. Ask the hundreds of thousands of millions of Africans that were brought here against their will. by ordinance of the church. Ask them, is there any other voices to be heard? By the way, I was just in South Carolina the other day. I was walking with my mother, and as we was walking, she said, son, around the corner, there's a noose hanging. I said, Mama, I know around that corner, there ain't no noose. She said, son, I'm not gonna pay them people no attention. I said, Mama, I need to go see this. So we walked around the corner. This was just 2 weeks ago. I was in South Carolina. And the people had all their Halloween madness hanging around, and they had a black man hanging from a tree. Yes. Wow. I went to a place called Calhoun County. President Calhoun is his name. His family started Clemson, South Carolina. My daddy was one of the first blacks to graduate from Clemson, South Carolina. And right in Calhoun County, I went straight into a Confederate flag, an old one, next to Mr. Trump's flag. Oh, dear Americans, dear artists, dear creatives, those of you who have enough heart to love and eyes to see and ears to hear, it's not going to be right until we make it right. We cannot continuously to beg. We cannot continuously to stand by and allow 77-year-old white men to be the precedent in our lives. There are other voices to be heard. There are other lives to be considered. So as I close here, I don't have to be the president to be the precedent in my community. I don't have to be the president to be the precedent in my life, in my family, in my community, in my city, in my state, because I know what I gotta do. It's a shame that an ex-criminal, a parolee, is challenging you to love, challenging you to hug, challenging you to smile, challenge you to eat correctly, challenge you to engage the arts, challenging you to love on the students that are in your community, challenging you to do something for the poor, the sick, and the needy. So as I close, thanking Fowler Museum, I look up the word museum and it means a seat of the muses. Once again, just real quickly, I'm a pedagogue. Critical pedagogy is my thing. I look up the word museum and it says a seat for the muses. Oh, that's another story. Talk to you on part 3.